Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Hold the Mic. I'm your host, Ryan Shead. This is my co-host, Ian Sherman. Brother, how are you doing?
What up, though, man? It's so good to see you.
You too,
I
brother,
feel like
as
we've had a lot of
always.
time in the green room. A lot of
We
time.
did.
Y'all
Yeah.
missed the real show.
Yeah.
It's
I
like
think
that's how it always goes.
I think we were in there longer than the show's going to be.
Fact.
Um,
Let's get in and get out. We got things to do.
right?
No, today's actually a really special episode. I have to tell you guys that there's gonna be a lot of Michigan in the building. It always brings me a lot of joy to see a lot of power players who came from Michigan, same city, damn near county, where we all literally went out and are doing dope shit in different states, different cities now, and we get to reconnect. I want to introduce to one of you guys an amazing human being. Her name is Caitie Goddard. And she is doing this show because I found her doing some stuff on Facebook. And I was like, yo, Caitie, you're dope. I love what you're doing. Do you want a bigger platform? And she was like, say when. And I'm just like, that's like such a Huckleberry Finn type of answer, right? I'm like, go ahead, Kate. Oh, and shout out to Val Kilmer since we're saying Huckleberry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
man.
wider. But let's bring on Caitie. This is an amazing human being. Caitie, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks
Yes.
for having me.
As I was telling everybody, like it was just so dope to see you like posting like knowledge, like really just dropping it. And I was like, oh my God, like I love that you're doing this on Facebook and getting your voice out there. And I was like, do you just want this bigger platform? And you're like, say when. Like I was like, oh my God, you're so dope. You're so dope. Thank you for joining the show.
I really appreciate being here, and thanks. And I don't know if I was dropping knowledge. I was dropping a lot of experience and just
Knowledge.
trying to channel frustration into information.
And that's where knowledge comes from. You're literally taking experience and you're like, hey guys, like you need to understand what's going on. And
Yeah,
I feel like this would be
that's
a great platform for you to really actually reach out and let people know just really what is going on in DC, what we're seeing from this
Yeah.
government, and like what's the roadmap that we're traveling together. Because in the end, we're all in this boat together, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, so where what
I
does
think
this look
so.
like? So
So-
I love what you're putting out there.
With that
Thank
said,
you.
Katie, can you give the listeners a little bit of background about yourself so they know where you're coming from?
Sure. Well, I'm proud to be from the same area as two great podcast hosts. Raised in Michigan and went to school in Michigan and started my career in Michigan and ended up following a path in international development. Felt really passionate about helping others and doing it in a way that wanting to learn more about the world and how we're all interconnected. So lived and worked overseas for a while and then came back, and ultimately my last position was with USAID, where I live and work in Washington, D.C., and have spent time in the research division there working around science, tech, and a lot of higher education stuff. So that's a little bit about me. I'm also an ardent March Madness supporter. Not relevant to this conversation, but used to play basketball and super passionate about
basketball. I don't
supporting-
know you for basketball at all. What? No.
Super
I've only
passionate
known
about
Caitie for basketball.
basketball.
Like I was probably one of her biggest fans. Me and my sister Ida were always at the basketball
No,
game.
Ida was the cool star ahead of me.
Don't try to make
that I
her the
would
goat.
aspire
All
to
right.
be.
All right. You're like the
She's-
LeBron James. She's the
That's
Michael
me.
Jordan. It's just different. It's just different. That's all it is. That's all it is.
So
I thought you were going to
still
say
have
Steph
that.
Curry, but
Oh, I wish.
Okay.
I wish.
You didn't know
Come on.
Katie's game. You didn't know Caitie. She was up close and personal. She was the
Come on.
assassin.
I
is what
don't
we
know
called
if I
her.
could.
I love it.
My
I love
dream.
it.
So yeah,
good.
that's a little about me. Spent most of my career in international development, working with some of the brightest and best, literally from all around the world. It's pretty cool. But always, of course, really excited about sharing how great I think our country is, and also how great Detroit and Michigan are.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it.
I love that because, when Ian and I talked about what we wanted this show to be moving forward, particularly after this last election, we decided we wanted to get, a little bit more away from the shock stuff and more of the education and knowledge type of shows. And that's why I'm really excited to have you here, because I know that you can bring insight into what's happening in DC right now. And so many people don't you're living it. And so many of us don't have somebody in our lives that are actually living it to tell us, their personal experience. And hopefully without, much bias, facts are facts. This is what's happening. And that's why I think more people should be upset on both sides of the aisle on this issue.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to hear what you have to say, and I hope people will listen, and maybe we can, I don't know, maybe change some opinions, but at least provide some insight so people understand more of how these policies are affecting everyday Americans.
Happy to talk about it. Yeah. Same, and I think we need to get out of our bubbles, and I can include myself. It's easy to stay and validate everything we're thinking and hearing, and so just hearing what's exactly happening, and we might have different perspectives on if it's good or bad, but this is what it is, I think is important.
Yeah, for sure. But I think, I hope you guys don't mind, I want to start by congratulating Susan Crawford for winning the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin.
Major. This is major.
So that was a major win, I think, for I'm not even going to say the Democratic Party. I think that was a win for our country right now. So congratulations to her. Glad they got that victory. And considering, I loved her speech where she's like, we just beat the richest man in the world.
A little girl from a small town just beat the richest man in the world. But she also quoted Thurgood Marshall. And I'm like, I just love everything about this. Like this individual really is something special. But this was the highest, historically, the highest funded outside state campaign. And it's like, this is blowing my mind that this is when you're talking about getting money out of politics. This is exactly what we should be talking about. Yeah. There's something off that someone's just dropping $20-something million. And you're like, what? You're giving away $1 million? What? But Supreme Court also of Wisconsin's like, no, he could do it. You're like, what? What is going on right now? But this is the part where I think a lot of people are kind of like puzzled at what is unfolding in front of us.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I think, we have a huge issue with money in politics, just in general, and it's not a one-sided partisan thing.
Right.
No, that isn't. And
so I want to congratulate 100%. George Soros. Good job. You picked a better bet, and here we are. So great job. The boogeyman is back, y'all. The boogeyman is back.
No, but there is somebody that we really do need to be congratulating, and that's Cory Booker. And I think the most important, actually, I'm going to let you say it, Ian. Go ahead and say what was significant about it.
It was interesting because I know you, me, and a couple others were like, is this really what it's going to, like, what is the purpose of this? And something that was really special about this, especially being biracial, was the fact that I look like a smaller, younger version of Cory Booker. Let's just be serious if I take this cap off.
What a compliment.
You know what I mean? Let me really go for it. Let me just shave this beard and look like a child. No, but it's one of those things where, when he first started, I said, okay, what's the purpose of this? And then I quickly was paying attention. I saw him when he only had like 5,000 views on TikTok. I checked back in. It was 16,000. I checked back in. I kept really like going and just listening for segments. And I thought it was really brilliant to have all these other congressmen, all of his colleagues talking during the segment just to give him a moment of rest. But he could never sit, and he had to stand the entire time. I don't know all the other elements of like his prep to do this, but just in general, to think about this, to fast forward, him standing for 25 plus hours, and for him to beat the record by what's his name? Strawman? What is
Strom Thurmond?
Strong Thurmond, who the last time that this was done was by an individual who was actually trying to filibuster the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah.
In 1957. How poetic is it? You know what I mean? In America, that you have now a mixed light-skinned brother who is like, beat it. Done. Taking that seat. And all I can think of is who's going to be the next like Senator Donald Trump, who's like, we got to beat that record. And, really get in there and have that pendulum swing, but it's too soon. This is historical. This is really amazing. It was really great, like I said, to check in periodically throughout the night, into the morning, starting all over again, and then watching it. And I have to say, there was something really beautiful about Chuck Schumer saying, may I ask you a question? And he's like you could tell at the very end, he's like, Chuck Schumer, he's like, this is the only time I can tell you no, you can't ask me a question. And,
not you, sir.
Not you, sir. And I thought that was such a beautiful moment within the party, to really just take a minute. And it wasn't about anybody else. It was just about that moment. And that I think is so special. So really a big up to Cory. And if you see him, tell him that we love him from the show.
Yeah, well, it's what the cool thing about being an American and living in Washington, D.C. is that you actually can meet your elected officials. And I think before I was in politics, before I was in federal government, I had no idea. Growing up in Michigan, you could literally, you don't have to be special, you don't have to live here. You can just walk up and literally meet these people, and it's their job. It is literally their job to talk to you, and especially when you're from their state. So it's not an inconvenience in the sense, or like you're bothering them in theory. I mean, doing it respectfully, and obviously there's some boundaries, but the idea is like they're there to serve you. That's their job. So absolutely. So I can
It's amazing.
go
It's
and
amazing.
say thank you in person. I plan to. And just for, I have heard, and one of the things I really like is trying to see different perspectives on things. And I know that there's some people who are like, what was the point of that? Like, good job for 25 hours, you know? And what I will say is, one, wholly hard thing to do. I could
100%.
not pee or eat or drink for 25 hours. I
As
would
I'm
have to
drinking right
train.
now, as I'm drinking right now, as you're saying,
Right. Just the courage to do that. And about something like, you obviously have to prep. If you want to do something like that, you care quite deeply. And one of the things, and I'll just stand, 10 toes down on this, or however you want to frame it, like, you can just disagree or agree with what he's saying, but he cares. I think that's inarguable. He really cares. And one of the things, as a person who's been working in federal government, is you saw him, if you paid attention, read some letters from constituents that were really heartbreaking, and really, you saw him get emotional. I don't think that was theatrics. After 25 hours, like, you're too tired to fake. You're just trying to make it.
Right.
So just really impressed with his care, and there's not a lot right now that Democrats can do, and I would say are doing.
Right.
And in the federal government, and he was like, you know what? That's not an excuse. We can do something, and I'm going to do something.
It was a rally cry.
And
it was
so,
really a rally cry.
Is this going to change the world in 24 hours? No. But I will say this, being in DC and talking to hundreds of people through different means, throughout the days, like, this was motivating. This helped people feel heard and seen and listened to. And as you said, kudos to him.
The difference, if you put his versus the last individual to hold this seat, the past one, he got to take bathroom breaks. He was reading books or something. It was not even, it was just fluff. It wasn't real. Corey actually,
Booker stayed on message.
He really brought a lot of message to specific things that are happening. He's talking about Social Security. He's talking about Medicaid. He's really talking about, like you said, his constituents. So this was very pointed at the current situation, period.
Yep.
Brilliant.
And even if he read Llama Llama Red Pajama for 25 hours, that's much better than a racist, anti-civil rights person holding this record. And so the fact that he is way more brilliant, and
it's almost like a black man did better than a mediocre white man at this. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Well, in this case, that's unquestionable.
But I like the way you put that,
shit.
because, like Ian said in the beginning, like, when it first started, I was one of those people kind of rolling my eyes, like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, theatrics. Here's another, like, dramatic stance. But
as it went on, and like you said, checking in and out, because I sure as heck didn't watch the full 25 hours. But I did go today, and I appreciate all the people out there on social media who put together the highlight clips. People like me really appreciated that. So thank you to all you folks out there. But I really like what you're saying, because I agree. I left the party almost 2 years ago. But I always kind of laugh at people. I'm like, but yet I'm still more loyal to the Democrats than most, registered Democrats. It's like somebody like Cory Booker, we're all standing out here right now crying for, please liberals, please Democrats, stand up, do something, say something. We can't just sit back and let this happen unchecked. And like you said, the realities are we don't have a lot of options because we aren't in power anywhere. So to see somebody like Cory Booker go out there, take the reins, and as you said, there is something we can do. Let's do that. Let's rally the troops, and make people understand that we see them. We are trying, but it's gonna take some time, and it is going to take us all coming together. And I've been preaching for 2 years of saying I love bullying the bullies, but at some point we are going to have to come back together and build this bridge back to fix America. And I said, I don't know when that time's going to be, but I'm pretty sure that we'll know when it's time. And I've been saying for a few days and weeks, I think now's the time. I really feel like with everything we're seeing happen, the deportations, the tariffs, the, abandoning our allies, escalating wars, this is the time. I really, really feel like this is the time. And that's why it's even more important to have people like you on these shows that are in the trenches, that are in DC, that have these jobs that are being affected. We need to get your stories and people like you. We need to get your stories out there. So I'm just really glad we're doing this today.
Yeah, it really humanizes the situation, Caitie.
It does.
When we talk about this, like you're not just a federal worker. You know what I mean? Because that's just thrown out there. Like you really are now becoming a face of a situation. And that's why I give you a lot of kudos. That's what it was inspiring when I saw you. I was like, oh my God, like your voice is speaking volumes to the situation and it needs to be heard. So that's really what it all comes down to.
And just on that point, I mean, and it's not a pushback to what you're saying, but I'd actually say like what we need to hear is everyone's voices who aren't here, and that's part of how our jobs should be in the federal government is like reminding ourselves we're not working for this little town called Washington, D.C. Like we're here on behalf of all of the people from where we're from. And I happen to be from Michigan. That's really important to me. There's people that were on my team at USAID from all over the country. And the work we do is meant, and we better know what the heck we're doing to support the people in our country. Like, not that the current administration, that hasn't been a priority for them to acknowledge that that's part of our process. But in fact, like we always have to, we're held so accountable to every dollar. We have so many audits. We have so many monitoring and evaluation metrics in place at all times, because it's not just someone's random tax dollars in New Mexico or Utah. Like I pay taxes too. All my family in Michigan pays taxes. My kids will, grow up in this country. So it's not just like a federal worker. It's a person that's deeply invested. And I'm one of thousands.
You're saying
I am not unique in
you were
any
being
way.
audited before Doge, or is that a new thing? Is that only 3 months deep?
I luckily haven't even been in federal government long enough to know how arduous it is. And even not having been, so I worked for Michigan State University very proudly on USAID projects, and the amount of time and effort to make sure we could report every dollar, because USAID would question everything if we didn't report. Sometimes I'm saying like it's infuriating. It's like we have better things to do, and now to be said that these folks aren't doing enough. It's like,
or all the fraud that they're finding. It's like here we go.
Well, and I don't like. I'm the first person. I joined federal government. One of the reasons I wanted to be a part of federal government, and specifically international development, is because I know it's not perfect. And I hate being part of a problem and not being part of a solution, or complaining and not doing anything, or, putting blame when I don't understand a process. So rather than say, oh, look at all these lazy, unproductive folks, which I never thought that was the case, but some of the language that's been said to us in USAID from our current administration, instead it was like, what can I do with my knowledge of working with implementing partners, universities? What can I do to make things improve, or what knowledge can I bring to help? And so that's a really big thing. The amount of times just to be clear, whenever a USAID project happens, it has to be approved in a larger scale by Congress. So until January 21, 2025, USAID and all of the projects were by and large bipartisan. And that's because they have to be approved. And we have multiple times a year in different facets have to explain where our money goes. And I think USAID was, out of the 9 federal agencies they talked about, it was like number 3 in responsible accounting and responsible reporting. And not to say that there's, every single federal agency can do better, 100% and should. And we should be held to big standards. And I would welcome if this administration said, we have, we'll keep you intact, but we have new things to add to make you stronger and better. Great. Just to acknowledge, like the military has never.
I was about to say, can we talk to the Pentagon real quick, just to make sure? Are those numbers checking at all? But yeah, here it is.
To be clear, we all know that the military is
Yeah.
important. I'm not in
Ryan.
any way trying to say we shouldn't have one.
Hey, she's 100% right. Trust me,
Yeah.
fraud, waste, and abuse in the military is a constant conversation.
How much was that hammer
And
in
one
the Army, Ryan? Was it
$80. You can get it at $19.99 at Lowe's.
that sounds like a really nice hammer. Well, I will say too, there's a difference, and I think this is also where regular folks who aren't having to do, who hopefully don't turn on the news 24 hours a day. I hope most people aren't doing that around the country. When they talk about waste and they start talking about fraud and abuse, they're using those terms, and they're the way. Well, one is sometimes I've just heard blatant lies, and the facts are out there, so it's clear it's not true. But in the other case, there's some things that this administration is allowed as the new administration to say, I don't like this, and I don't like where this money's going. But that doesn't mean it is fraud.
Right.
And that doesn't mean it was waste. That means there's changing priorities, and every single administration, there are changing priorities, and every single administration, federal workers, bureaucrats adapt, because that's the job. And it is our job to support the administration regardless of who it is.
Well,
so I'm
you're saying
looking
that-
forward to when the waste and the
When
fraud
you're
come,
saying
but I
that,
haven't seen
Katie,
it.
my biggest thing is like paying attention to okay, so we have that earthquake, right? 7 point something. In Myanmar. So it's like when you look at that and like how tragic this is, and you think about how America's really been trying to like really protect and jump in and save, and on another front is be preventive, right? Like really try to get ahead of things. Just because we also know that as we're seeing climate change, regardless if people want to believe it or not, people are going through other things, and they're fleeing to get to high ground or get to a safer place. But to say that, we're absent from this situation. This is USAID. This is something that would be one of those moments that we would be there, and now there's kind of a void that is there, and we're watching now, like China, for example, kind of swoop in and fill the void. So like what are you seeing, or what can you share on this?
Yeah, so there's a couple things, and I think about a lot of I try to think about it from different perspectives, because I know not everyone shares my values, my beliefs, my goals, and that's totally okay. That's one of the cool things about the US. So one thing I'll just say is like for people who are really like I'd say folks who are identifying as really Christian, or like really it's about everyone should be treated equally no matter where, no boundaries matter and stuff. Like this is just an issue around like we should show up because we should, period. Like we are the most powerful country. We have the means and resources to do it, and we have friends and allies in need, and this is a important country. But regardless, they need our help, and we can do it, and we have the resources, period. And that's what the beliefs of some religious leaders and folks would say. So that's one. But then when we talk about like safety and US priorities, so this is a pretty a region that China is more than happy to continue to make inroads in, and doesn't have the same goals and needs or interests as the United States. And so what's happening is, this is just one example, this earthquake. I'm more familiar with areas in Africa.
Which I was going to ask you, because China's really building an infrastructure out there as well. But
oh, they have built.
Yeah,
they have built. But we've come under the same lens where like there was kind of when you give your word as an American or like as USAID, they believe like there's relationships and trust and long term. I have people from all over with projects I've worked in, Malawi and Uganda and Ghana and Liberia, all have messaged me, checking in on me as a federal worker, as their projects and their jobs have been lost, being worried. So I think just the relationships and the so what about that is USAID is not a philanthropic organization. It was never a philanthropic organization. It's not created to be philanthropic. It was created for national security. What we value as Americans, supporting and helping others, but also with strategy. And Ryan, you're in the military, so you know all about strategy and intentionality. And one thing I'll say is like, if you don't have aid and support, it's like what happens next. So a good analogy, this is kind of silly, but like I kind of see it as like the dentist. Like you go to the dentist for prevention, right? You take care of yourself so that you don't have really expensive longer term outcomes. It's kind of that way with our allies and our partners, where you put things in place for prevention, you build relationships, there's trust, there's infrastructure, so that when big, horrible things happen, they don't become worse. And it costs money and it costs time, but the next step is way worse. And one last thing on that is like Trump, thankfully, and the administration have said we'll do some support to Myanmar. But when you cut back all of our teams, all of our personnel, all the infrastructure, that money doesn't go as far anymore. It doesn't do as much, and it takes more time, which means more lives are lost, more resources are affected.
I mean, you're on your back heel. So, like, you're not really leading. You're not in a position to jump on something, and it really does feel like there's this place where we're just like 2 steps behind now on anything. And I've had this.
That's what it's starting.
I've had this feeling with him because something always sat with me with Trump's first term, where he got rid of the global pandemic department that was there. I believe Obama created something that was more so about the Ebola or something to be preventive. To just keep an eye on the rest of the world. What do we need to be aware of? How do we stay ahead of something? And then fast forward, here's a global pandemic. And then Trump said something that really just irked me, where he was like, well, who would have thought, or who could ever imagined that there'd be this? And it's like the department that you literally got rid of, that was their job. That was literally the one job they had to do, was pay attention to what is happening out there and how do we get ahead of it. And can you talk a little bit about that in a sense of seeing? Let me put it this way: are you feeling any PTSD from the last time? Because look, you're amazing at being like, I see that you're like, look, I will work with anybody, but there's a part where I know that it has to feel like, wow, this again. Like just want to. I mean, I don't want you to look like me. I don't want you to pull all your hair out. Like just going crazy about this. But like, what is a thing that is there PTSD out of this of past his first term versus now his second term, just these 3 months into it?
Yeah, well, I want to be mindful that I rather than speak just about this administration or Trump as an individual, just about the consequences of not thinking ahead or not having preventative measures. And that the thing I can appreciate from American people, and like why people get frustrated about spending money for things that haven't happened, is we're giving you all this money to do what? We don't even know if it's worth it. But that's why it's important to have really smart people hired in government who are experts in different areas, and they're able to inform based on their knowledge. So for example, the pandemic response unit, I'm not sure of the exact name, that used to be that Obama did instill. It's not like Obama was prescient or he's just like a know-it-all of everything. He was listening to folks who are saying, this is not an if, it's a when. And so we need to protect American people, and we need to make sure we're prepared. And you can argue, like, did they do the best job? What, in hindsight, it's so much easier to criticize or say, like, what could have been done differently. And so I think we should be open to feedback or people going like, this was not appropriate, whatever. But the idea that we're not going to see more pandemics or more disease cross borders, it's frustrating now with your question of like, what the frustration is that I work in development. I work with folks who are experts in health, and we know that there's diseases that spread, and part of USAID, what they do is they're on the front lines to see it and prevent it early so it doesn't hit us. So it's almost like we're victims of our own success. If that makes sense. We don't see what can happen because we've prevented it. We have people in place. We're working also with brilliant scientists who are not Americans in all these other countries. Like, there's talented folks ready and willing to help and serve. And we're essentially eliminating all of them. And that, to me, it's really scary. It's scary just as a person, not, I don't want tuberculosis.
Right. So,
I don't want all these diseases.
Speaking of talented scientists, can you talk a little bit more about Robert F. Kennedy Jr.?
Shit.
Well,
next question.
If this was Drink Champs, we'd all be taking a drink.
You can take a shot, Caitie. You can take a shot, girl. We ain't gonna judge you on that one.
I just had water. I think it's important, just when you talked about how important your show is about facts, to acknowledge that he's not in fact a scientist. And that is important.
Live,
and I think that's
baby.
good
Here we go, right?
Hey, I'm good with it.
So I think there's a lot of different feelings from people all over about their thoughts on him as a person. I think that there's some stances he has that are his overall perspective of, hey, we're not doing so well as a country with our health. I agree.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, this sounds great. Some of the decisions he's making, like firing or getting rid of people who are working on the very issues he has claimed are most important to him. I think a lot of women's issues are at risk with some of the science that's being cut. Again, preventative, like there's research on breast cancer, brain cancer. There's a lot of cancers that are being, the scientists are getting cut.
Let's
when it
Pediatric
comes,
cancers.
real quick.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Just to add to what you're saying, women only started really being studied. Their genetic makeup since what, 1997?
Yeah,
Like something really weird.
it depends. It's even later than that
for some things, but we're
yeah.
talking about actually taking it where they used to compare it to just men. They're
Sure.
like, okay, here's a man, so
Sure.
it's the same thing for women. But it really started taking
Right,
off.
women weren't even in trials.
And not to mansplain that, but just in general to throw it in there, because
No,
it's like it blows
not.
my mind that now we have this man who maybe the worm is leading the charge with Kennedy, but just thinking about this, what's actually happening right now.
Yeah, I won't.
You don't have to address the worm. You don't have to talk about that. It's okay.
I hear your frustrations and some of the thoughts that people have. I will say this. The other thing that I'm really frustrated at is if we look at the data, and I think that's really important about who is most affected by the lack of health equality and the lack of health support, it's people who are low income in our country or in an economically difficult situations. And so it's like, I don't have a problem with talking about food dyes or some of the big, issues he's really championing. I'm open to learning about them or rethinking things like, why do we need fancy colors? Cool. But if we really, really actually care about all Americans, then we're talking about inequality and we're talking about food deserts, which I never hear them talking about. We're talking about, why are we cutting school lunch programs? Like these are the things that if you want to affect the most people, bang for buck, if we want to talk about value for money, and also what's going to cost long-term Americans less, is if we have healthy programs for low-income families and we help people who are in really difficult situations, because we know their costs for healthcare later on in life are what crush the system. And so I'm not opposed inherently so to anything that's happening with his movement. I think there's misinformation, and that's really concerning
and dangerous.
But some of the things he's saying, you're right. And some of the things he's saying, I'm like, cool, but that is not the major issue. And if you're leading our country and you're not focusing on food deserts, for example, that people you're telling people we need to eat better, but they don't have any options. They need to take 3 buses to buy fresh vegetables. That's insane. And so that's where I'm disappointed that we don't have a scientist or someone with a deep amount of expertise, or someone who's really speaking, I would say, to an average person who's really struggling. And the average person isn't worried about red food dye, to be really honest. Like, I'm not saying it's not an issue
100%,
or it couldn't be, but come on.
It's not even in my top 5.
No, but I mean, when you do look at like what is passable here in America versus like Europe, you're like, well, wait a minute, why are they so hard on a lot of these chemicals? They're like, we're not doing it, And I remember, I think when we were in college, it was like Fireball, and I was like, don't drink that shit. Like, do not do it. It's illegal in other countries because it's like antifreeze or whatever that's in there. I go, what are we doing here? Like, it's insane.
That would explain some things.
It would explain some things.
So what I'm hearing is you really want to campaign around anti-Fireball or like taxes.
Fruit Loops, Fireball,
tariffs on Fireball.
Like,
and I want Aunt Jemima back on the bottles, damn it.
I want Aunt Jemima. That was representation, okay?
But just to put an exclamation point on what Caitie's saying, guys, something that happened today, the Department of Health and Human Services fired every single worker in its program that helps low-income Americans pay their energy bills.
Did you say every?
Every single employee responsible for that program.
So would we say that this administration is just lacking empathy in general? That's like the base where it's starting?
Well, administration is large. My thought on that is, I can tell you from my experience, because everyone's going to have different experiences. And I think some folks who don't work in government are saying, like, finally, an administration that's listening to me. I mean, people voted for this administration. So I have to think, some people think this is the right path. And I don't want to discount that, but at the same time, like, let's just talk about how these firings have happened. So, and how people have been let go. So for example, those who were let go today, yesterday, this week, some of them showed up. They now have to have a mandated return to work, many of them, right? So they might have been going virtual, and now they're in really long lines to get in their building, no parking available because it was never designed to have everyone in the office, because it is not necessary. They're waiting in line. They might have left their house, some people at 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. to get to work. They get to work with their badge to do their job, to protect Americans, help people pay energy bills, help get food to the right people, have Medicare, Medicaid. And at the door, their badge doesn't work. And that's how they found out they're fired, or that they are reduced. It's called a reduction in force. So like off. And then they've called it, like, how dehumanizing then to walk back through this long line of people who are waiting
So a walk
to get
of
in.
shame through all your coworkers. Like, I guess I don't have a
fired.
job.
It's really tough. And the other thing is, this is not day one of this administration laying a bunch of people off. So they know there are different ways, right? That's a choice. That's a choice that was made to do it that way.
This is really gross. That's gross. That could have been an email. I would have literally been like, this could have been an email, y'all. This could have been an email. Plain and
Ryan, you referred back to like a time in our past in Michigan where that happened to folks, right? In the auto industry. And that is traumatic, and it's so uncaring, and there's no reason for it. And I just don't think there needs to be like a partisan, or like, oh, this is Republican or Democrat. Let's just talk about that they're people. And you don't sign up to work to help people and pay their energy bills because you really want to make it and get rich. That's just not the job you do. And so, and I can talk about, if it's helpful, like the experience from USAID, and just, it was traumatic for a lot of folks, and also just being called names. Like, you show up to work. I thought I spent my whole career doing something that I felt was act of service, like choosing a career that was helping others, and then being told on Twitter or X by Elon Musk, like, oh, we fed USAID to the wood chipper today. These are low productivity workers. And it's frustrating, because a lot of the folks I work with actually come from private sector, and they're some of the smartest people. I've been in private sector. I've been an entrepreneur. Like, I've done other things. And so to say, I'm not saying this just to be nice. I'm saying, like, truly some of the smartest, most talented folks I worked with were on my team at USAID. So these are not folks who can't find other opportunities. They chose it. And what a shame that we're losing them to companies that don't care. Who care about shareholders in a very narrow sense, when my job and other people's job was to care about shareholders. The shareholders were American people, writ large.
And I think this is a good time to talk about Jim Banks too, but real quick, I just want to tell that story you brought up. So, for us Michigan folks, the auto industry is huge in Detroit and Metro Detroit. And
definitely.
So, growing up in the 80s and 90s, we were always paying attention to that stuff. And my dad was an engineer at Chrysler. And in I think it was 97, I may be off by a year or two, Daimler came in, the Germans, Mercedes, came in and purchased Chrysler and turned it into Daimler Chrysler. One of the first things they did was a reduction in force. My dad showed up to work, and they had done exactly what Caitie was saying. They just shut everybody's badge off. They wouldn't even let them back in the building to get stuff off their desk. So my dad was one of the supervisors who was staying around, but like most of his guys got fired. So he was sitting there scanning his badge along with a couple other guys, and security came down and told him that he couldn't do it. And my dad, being who he was like, well, I'm going to do it till you turn my card off. So he literally made him go turn his card off, but he was just letting them in so they could at least go get their stuff. And that's just, it was one of the first times that it was put in my head that an employer will have your job up on the want ads before your obituary hits the newspaper. And it's like, this is just another one of those times showing, not just the American people, but just people in general, that these jobs, these businesses, these billionaires and 100 millionaires, they don't care about you. They care about the job you can get done. They care about what you can do for them. But the minute you start having an issue or you become less productive, you become expendable.
Right.
And the kicker, I think that I really want to bring up is the worst part of what is happening right now is all these people, these Elon Musk simps, it's like they act like Elon Musk is sitting down with a piece of paper and going, yep, nope, that one's not good. Nope, that one's not good. No, he's putting it through a freaking AI system.
Yeah.
So if you go back a few episodes, you might
Yes.
remember that Ian and I were talking about the Enola Gay. It was
Yeah.
removed because it had the word gay in it.
Gay. Yeah.
And then
I'm
that's
laughing.
when
It's not funny. It's just ridiculous.
oh no, it's funny. It's
all
ridiculous
laughable,
funny.
Katie. This is a show where you can laugh at our pain.
Ridiculous.
That's
But
the
it's
reality.
like that was
And it was
when
done by a guy named Big Balls. Like this is the world we
That
live
too.
in.
I know.
Like this is the
I
part where it's
know.
like it's so grotesque.
But it's just like, that's where we're at. These people's jobs aren't being cut by somebody sitting down and taking the time to even review their performance themselves. It's being put through freaking AI. Why Elon Musk is sitting out there going, can you guys stop throwing Molotovs at my cars? Can you stop doing freaking Hitler salutes?
Yeah. It's a little grotesque right now. And it's and the thing is, Ryan, I don't know if you have the Jim Banks video, but this is
I do.
like,
Sorry. I went off on my own little.
No. I like your mini. We have Ryan rants here, Katie. So you got a little taste.
I'm trying to keep.
I'm listening.
He's trying to be on best behavior. I'm telling you right now, he is. Can you play the Jim Banks?
Yep.
So our viewers can see what's some of the.
And this was today, right? This was today.
Was this? I think
It was yesterday.
Was it
I think.
yesterday? Okay.
It was yesterday.
So this is Jim Banks responding to somebody like Caitie coming in and voicing
HHS.
their concerns.
Yeah.
Hi, I was a worker at HHS. I was fired illegally on February 14th. There are many people who are not getting social service programs, especially people with disabilities. Are you going to do anything to stop what's happening?
You probably deserved it.
I deserved it?
You probably deserved it.
I deserved it. Wow. Yeah, that's great to hear. Why did I deserve it?
Because you seem.
Those are your representatives, folks.
Yeah, that makes me really angry.
Indiana,
And it should
right?
it should make every single American upset. And I just want to give a shout out to my haters real quick who say that they don't like how I conduct business or how I conduct myself online. Let me tell you something. I'm not elected. I'm not running for office. I'm also bipolar. What the fuck are these people's excuses? Like,
Well, here's one more on top of that. Mr. Banks over here took the elevator closing on his face and made that his social media platform.
did he really?
His
Yeah,
icon.
exactly. So, it's like,
Katie, I mean, it's gross, man.
why show these
I
people
don't-
any
I
type of
think
respect? They don't
Swamp-
deserve it.
I think the swamp is in full effect on Capitol
Yeah.
Hill in DC. When we talk about draining it, I think it's now kind of bubbled up into what it is now, right?
Can we even call it the swamp anymore? I think it's like space junk at this point. Like we're just waiting for it all to start burning into the atmosphere.
Florida. It's just Florida. That's all.
Let me just tell you, the guy who said that and many other people who were there yesterday, these are folks that I've been, because I live in DC, I'm very fortunate to be able to go speak to representatives and talk to them about things that are happening. And there are hundreds of people who are trying to do that. And so this gentleman in particular, I don't know him personally, but I'll say like what I've heard over and over, and this is not exaggerating. Like when we get together and talk, people are not worried about themselves as individuals. This guy who you heard what he said? He was talking about people with disabilities getting services,
Right.
because people who are in these positions, they're working with folks. They talk to them personally. Like when I mean, my job was different with USAID. I'm working with folks in all different countries. This guy was working with Americans who he's hearing their stories every day. And if you do that, your whole career, in some instances, that people have been invested in helping others, and to know you lost your job, but not just you lost your job with all the other folks who are helping folks who might need that extra support.
Yeah.
No one's sitting there just woe is meing.
Right.
We don't sit in it's called the Hart Atrium, for example, which is where you walk into the Senate and you get to go then to see all the different Senate offices. And there's meetings there. And I will never hear people, you don't hear people talking about how angry they are about, oh, I lost my job. This is so unfair to me personally, and woe is me. You hear people really upset about constituents, about the people they're serving, about the work we're doing. And that is what people do. And that's hundreds of people. So my personal experience is like, I bet this guy was upset and is worried about all the people he's helping. And so when you hear someone say you're a clown, you deserve to be fired, it's just, I think what my biggest opinion is, we just deserve better as constituents, people in office. I do not care. He may disagree or agree on the decisions on firing, but to tell that to someone, we just deserve better.
Yeah, we do.
We deserve better than that. And people under services deserve better.
It's hard to watch that and just think to myself, like, you were an elected official and
It's
you're in a
ridiculous.
position to really think about bigger than yourself.
Yeah.
That's your job.
And to think that that was happening at the same time that Corey was speaking.
Right.
Yeah.
And to see that duality, right? Where
Yeah.
someone's literally talking about constituents, putting it out there, putting his own body on the line. We don't even know yet, is Booker going to suffer from something from this? Meaning just like, a week of
Short-term,
recovery,
definitely.
whatever. You know what I mean? Something. A bunion, whatever. Something. But
I love you, bro.
But what I'm saying that is like, how gross is it that then you have this individual who could just stop and just be like, this is something that I will take in consideration.
Totally.
Even if it was the fluff that you think of a politician or a lawyer, you're like, okay, well, here's this. But I looked it up. My man is up for re-election in 2028. And I want everybody to rewind this track in 2027, 2028, and get ready for that seat. Because you have to understand, this is who this person is.
Yeah.
And he's only 45, 44, 45. That Congressman Banks. I'm like, he's in our bracket.
He could be in there for the next 4 decades.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, and I really think about that. I'm like, why are we, us three, in a position where we're not trying to uproot some of these people in these seats?
I hear you.
I'm looking at you, girl. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at you.
Well, I hear you. I agree with you. And I think that, again, we can have differences of opinions, but one of the things that we realize is like what happened to your dad, Ryan, what happened to federal workers, that's a choice. You can have disagreements and there's going to be hard decisions and people sometimes have to make adjustments. People lose their jobs. How you do it should matter. And if we really care about our fellow Americans, we're leading by example. If you want to be a leader, then show us what leadership looks like. Right. And that's not leadership in any sense of the word. And there's a difference between showing compassion or care. Someone just lost their job and disability services are going to have to take some changes and there's going to be some hiccups, and you can acknowledge that. And still, if you thought, hey, I agree with the way this is going, changes need to happen, you can have a disagreement without telling someone they're a clown for caring. It's absurd. And I saw that all the time at USAID, just everything, the way we were treated on federal workers. You've heard about the letters we've received, I'm sure. I know, well, I shouldn't say I'm sure. I know everyone, again, hopefully isn't following the news so closely, but just the way we've been treated as if we're like trying to scam people.
Well, since you brought it up that maybe not everybody knows, can you just give us a quick rundown of the letter that you all received?
Yeah, let me give a quick rundown to just go. I think every person I know that I'm friends with or acquaintances with, I can't imagine would say this is acceptable and leadership. And so for an example, we heard when Trump was elected, there was going to be some major changes. And part of our job, again, if you work in federal government, these are people in the most strong sense of the word are rule followers. You join federal government. I wasn't sure I was going to be a good fit for a while because I like to test things. I like to be innovative and entrepreneurial. And I'm like, gosh, there's so many rules you have to follow. Like this might drive me insane. Yeah. And I mean, and you've been in the
Caitie was
military,
made for the streets, y'all. She was running the streets back in Detroit, y'all. She was a gangster, just so y'all remember. Basketball player. She was one of them. Well,
appreciate your
street ball. 13 mile. She got this.
But it's funny though that you say that, Caitie, because we've talked a lot about, I've had a secret security clearance for most of my adult life. So we've talked a lot about that. So it's really interesting that you bring it up. So I love hearing your side of it. So do you guys have to have clearances?
For my position, I did, yes. So position, I think it's position dependent, but for most positions, there's different levels. Like there's top secret, there's secret. So
confidential.
Your job, yep. And so, but also just to say, like, to go through interview process to get the job I had, I go through a one-on-one individual interview that's hours long. hours long, going over my entire history to make sure that
Background
I'm
check.
not someone who's going to essentially be an enemy to the people, that I'm not going to do anything that would compromise the security or the integrity of the United States. And I did that willingly and like, heck yeah, because that's what we should be held to a standard of. After that, I don't even know. I started late last year in USAID. So just starting, the amount of tests I had to take and the amount of trainings I had to take around things like how to get rid of paperwork properly, how to sign processes. I don't think people really understand. We go through, and it's mandatory. If you don't do it, you don't get paid. Like that's a flag. Your supervisor finds out, you can ultimately get fired.
You can get fired.
So we're going through multiple trainings, how to dispose of confidential material, how to work with people, how to make sure you never speak on behalf of the American government where you shouldn't. There's
so
a
you're
whole
not
lot
like
of things.
in Moscow, just using Signal app, just putting out.
We're not allowed to use Signal.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Could you say that again, real quick?
In a professional capacity, you're not allowed to use Signal, and the reason for that is because you have to have formal record keeping. So every single email that I was in, anything besides like emailing for lunch, like, hey, do you want to go to lunch today? That would not
What
be
I said to you
mandatory.
last episode, Ryan. Signal was being used for lunch orders back in the day. That's what we saw from the Biden administration and others. It was like, yeah, what do you want to see you at lunch? Bye. That's it. But yeah,
the fact that Pete Hegseth was using that is just
baffling.
The fact that he still has a job is what's baffling.
They can't shake this. They can't shake this right now. They're
trying hard.
Well, this is why he's talking about the third term. And everybody, which I love the internet. The internet is unforgiving. Everybody said Obama third term, Bush third term, Clinton third term, because if you're going to open it up, anybody can run, and they can run as vice president from what he's saying, and put themselves in that situation. So it's just muddying the waters, and no one cares.
Our Constitution says no, and that's not a slight to Trump. It's just the facts for any former president who's had 2 terms. I don't think any constitutional expert has said anything else besides that.
And this is why I give a lot of credit.
Do you have faith in the court to continue interpreting the Constitution in that way?
That's a great question. I don't think there's another way to interpret it. So unless they changed it, which,
MAGA interpretation.
Well, they're trying to change, as in, which we know that you're not going to get this amendment, but they're trying.
God, I hope not.
They're saying if you didn't serve 2 consecutive terms, they're trying to go around it and say that. Yeah. So we already know that's a far-fetched one, but the other one that they're dabbling with is if he ran as much like Putin. Just going to throw that out there, where he runs as a vice president and then is really using a shadow puppet, or if he let's just use JD Vance as a perfect example. JD runs as president, Trump as vice president, and then JD steps down. Well, technically, Trump was not elected. He had to step into position.
But he can't. Constitutionally, he can't even be vice president. But having said that, I will say,
I'm glad you're saying that. I'm glad you're saying
he can't. That's the rule. That's still illegal. But I think it is important. Like, I try to think, and I always go ahead, what if it was someone else? Would I have that same, adverse reaction? And I think we should all, these are our rules. They're there for a reason. And also, if we genuinely think a man in his mid to late 80s is the only person, I don't care what party, I will say that for anybody. I have said that for anybody. Then we have a real problem. And also, leadership is about building the people behind you, right? To be able to hold positions. And so anybody, and I'm not saying this about just Trump, but if you are telling me that they're, like in our last election, there were 2 men who were in the last years of their life, and they're telling us that it's them or the world falls apart, well, then I want to ask them, what have they been doing with their years of service? That there's no one else.
Ryan and I literally talked about this, Caitie, where we said, the Biden administration failed, and we point out the common sense on both sides, right? We just seem to really take more jabs towards the right. But we said that, what we witnessed this past election was that Biden didn't really set up Kamala for success. And by that, I mean, he should have just ran on one term. When I vividly remember him saying he's going to be the bridge to the next generation, that to me means you are literally just for this one term, and then you're letting the next generation take over. Because you have a taste of power wherever that goes, and you want to stay in that position, that's another thing. But to leave 100 days before the election, which I kind of thought was brilliant in a way, if she won, I mean, it's one of those things. If she won, it would have been the most
If she would have
brilliant
won,
thing
it would have been
ever.
brilliant.
It would have been the most brilliant. He took all the heat. It was the RNC. They wasted all the millions on him. And then boom, she takes the baton and runs with it. And it's like, okay, that would have been brilliant. But it didn't work out the way it did. And so then we're sitting here, we're like, why didn't you give her the platform, or why didn't the Democratic Party? All the what ifs that come out of it. But when you're looking at Trump now, he's really slow. I watched some old footage of him, and this is the thing that I really have a beef with the media. They're not talking about his age. Not like they were Biden. He really has slowed down. And for you to even state this, look at these two old men. You really are the best that America has to offer. It's like, no, you're not. You're not. You're in a position that clearly it's striking a nerve. I give it to Trump. That's his superpower. He knows how to poke the bear, and he has a strong base that will never leave him. They won't. It's 26%, but it's his base. And that's a strong foundation that he has. Biden, everybody likes Joe, but at the same time, it's like he never got ahead of any of the mess that was around him. And we all witnessed it, and he just got slower and slower. And Ryan and I, we did our show of watching that one debate, and Ryan and I were sitting here like, what was the question again? And Biden would actually go back to the answer it and circle. And I go, see, this is why I know he's cognitively there. He's just not good on stage. And there was a lot of things that Ryan and I would really like defend Biden in those moments. Even though Biden still is coming out saying, I would have won that race. And you're like, let it go, Joe. Let it go. Just enjoy retirement. Just enjoy whatever this is. Enjoy it.
Can I show you a tweet I put out today, Ian?
Bring it up.
I'll bring. So yeah, I don't know. I probably upset some people, but that seems to be my thing.
You're good at two things. You make pretty babies and you piss people off. That's your MO.
There's worse things that can be.
Yeah.
I put this tweet out though. I said, I know some don't want to hear this, but running Kamala Harris again in 2028 would be a huge mistake. I voted for Kamala. I think she was the best person for the job, but she couldn't beat a felon, business fraud, rapist, and accused pedophile. And to be frank, the Democratic Party did not set Kamala up for success or protect her as our next nominee from day one. Dems ultimately screwed her by waiting 100 days out and after primaries to switch candidates. We have to learn from this.
I think it's a great critique. It really is, us looking at hindsight and from an angry constituent, just in general, because like I said, if she would have won, we'd have been like, that was the most amazing.
That was perfect. They were genius.
Ever. Yeah, but geniuses, but it's not. I mean, I don't know how much, Caitie, you can touch on. I'm seeing, I know there has to be a balance with you guys being there in government. And I know that you guys are not, screaming. You're not walking around with a Trump hat or a Kamala shirt.
Some people are.
But
let me also be clear. Like, what people also don't realize is there's a lot of rules around when you're a federal employee of what you can and can't do. And so, like, we can't bring our politics into the office. So you can, and also to be clear, this is not a city of Democrats only. There are people, these are federal. So if you work as a person in government and you're a career employee, that means you don't switch in and out when new people come in and out. So there's appointees where each new president brings people in that specifically are there for the vision of their presidency. But then there's thousands of people who have worked through multiple leaders, and you have many Republicans in some industries or some agencies. I'd say they're more heavily Republican and some are more heavily Democrat, but in every agency you have workers who are Republican and Democrat. You cannot wear any campaign merchandise, any promotional material into the office. There are certain things you can't talk about. So for example, like representing or believing in like a policy, you can talk about the policy and the reason why you believe in a policy. Or an approach, but we have super strict rules around what we can and can't talk about, and that's intentional because the point is we're not here for a party leader or for a party. We're here for Americans, and Americans are all different beliefs. And so when you're here, like a lot of my colleagues have been through multiple presidents. Republicans and Democrats, and I don't even know all of their beliefs. I don't know who they voted for. We don't talk about that, and we talk about policies or strategies or projects that we care about and what we want to do and how we want to inform the Congress and Senate and president. And again, like everyone has different agendas. So, we had Samantha Power, who is the administrator of USAID, the first for President Joe Biden. We don't have an administrator for this Trump presidency because he is trying to totally dismantle USAID. But literally, I will say this, on my first few days of him being elected, the heads of our entire bureau, those who are not appointed, so those who are in career positions, they sat down with us and basically said, and I'm synthesizing, but this is how remarkable I think some of the people I work with are and would have been if we were allowed to keep working. They were saying things like, our job as a federal agency and as bureaucrats, people who work for the people, is to follow the rules of the administration and to support the mandates and mission they set forward. So if you do anything to disrupt or try to circumnavigate that by misleading or changing things, that is not in the interest of this agency, and that is not in the interest of this bureau. And they were super clear. Like, I honestly, working in government, I'd say this: if you want people to follow rules, like, hire people in government, because that is what they do.
Yeah.
They are not here to do their own thing and go rogue and be, wild. They're here to, one, they know their job is to represent the United States, and they were put in their positions to do the will of the people, which is follow the administration. And two, they know that every single dollar is not like venture capital, right? Or like angel investing. It's taxpayer dollars. And we're told that all the time. Yep. So it's so frustrating when I'm sure there are some rogue actors, like in any career, but more than any place. I worked at Chrysler. I don't know if you knew that, Ryan. That's where I started my career.
No, I didn't know that.
I've worked in different industries. There's no industry that I have been in that has had more regulations around rule following and more like ethical considerations than in the federal government. In particular, I would say my agency, which was around aid and supporting people. Like, when we make bad decisions, people die. And that's what pisses me off about Elon Musk. Like, he can throw Twitter to the wind and he can disrupt things and say, like, fail fast and break things. That's technology.
Right.
Well, when we break things, we're breaking supply chains that have HIV/AIDS medication. When we break things, we're potentially reinforcing famines. Like, this is not something where we just throw quick tests. If we would save money if we did that, but the ramifications are too serious. It's not just federal workers.
Some of the stuff, Caitie, that you just witnessed was like the soy, the produce, like stuff that was just sitting there now that was already shipped, packed, and like ready to go at ports, just wasted because it just sat there with no destination because of all these drastic changes. This isolation that is being created, like what are you seeing right now, and what do you think are some of the ramifications that are going to kind of come from this, that are going to reverberate?
Yeah, so two things. I'd say there's the international ramifications. And so just to be clear, I'll speak on what Marco Rubio, the head of the State Department, has said is like, we want to make America more safe, secure, and more prosperous. I'm all in. That sounds great. We should absolutely be doing that. So at a high level, yes. So going to your point of like what's happening right now, I think none of those things I'm not seeing it. I'm not clear how that's happening. So number one, when it comes to domestically, I think people think that the government, when we talk about federal and like cutting these workforces, I think they think a bunch of people in DC are losing their job, and they're kind of like elitist, like overpaid government workers. So just to be clear how government works, I'll talk about my agency, USAID. We actually are there to make sure taxpayer dollars are spent smartly. We don't administer the funding. So nearly all the money that goes to USAID, our agency, goes to implementing partners. Implementing partners are private sector industries, NGOs and charities like Catholic Relief Services, Samaritan's Purse, so like religious industry organizations, and universities, higher education institutions all over the country, all 50 states. So when we talk about people losing their job and they think it's like me, a federal worker in DC, it's hundreds of thousands of people all around the country who are losing their jobs and who don't have work, because that's who we steward the funds through.
Yeah.
So I'm in charge with working, for example, I'd be on a project and working with higher education institutions, but the institutions are the ones who are experts at maybe supply chain distribution of funds or nutrition research. And so it's not just affecting DC, it's going to affect jobs all over the country. And I don't see how that's making us more prosperous at
Right.
all.
Right.
And
Doesn't
careers
feel
with
like America
really
first, does
high.
it?
No,
Yeah.
and we're also talking about the best and brightest. Like, do you want
Right.
the best and brightest learning how to make better violent video games? Or do you want the best and brightest learning how to use AI to better disseminate food to, regions who are going through drought and famine? Like, that's
Sounds
what
like
we're-
Nebraska. You're describing Nebraska.
Yep.
About 3 months.
Well,
Yeah.
we incentivize, right? That's why we pay people well, and that's why
Yeah.
we have programs and fellowships, so that we go, hey, you're graduating and you have all this intelligence, and you could make a ton of money working to make 10 shareholders billionaires,
Yeah.
or you can make
Or-
all the country safer and more secure and more prosperous. And that's what the government, like, we hired those people.
It's
So
wild.
there's that. And then you have the international thing, and this is again the preventative. Like, you can care or not care, or say, like, we need to put Americans first. And if that's the stance that people have, and they say, I care about poverty and sickness and health, like that sounds bad. And it's not that I think Americans are like, who cares? I
Right.
don't think people are feeling that way. I think a lot of people say, well, we need to put ourselves first. Okay, if that's the case, then I would say, let's think about it this way. So when it comes to disease or famine, we know there's tons of data on this, that one disease doesn't stay in borders. So
Mhm.
we are more at risk, and we have to spend more money if we don't prevent it. And the risk is that it is coming to the United States and can hurt us.
Right.
Also, we know that areas of like poverty and lack of opportunity and lack of education breed a lot of militant activity, and also especially young boys, but young people who don't have other opportunities, they turn to organizations that tend to love blaming the United States for all the
Yeah.
ills in the world.
Yeah.
And they don't see the generosity of the people. So how is that making us more safe? Because these are long-term consequences. And it's kind of like, it's like putting a Band-Aid over an open wound and saying, look, we fixed it, and look how cheap it was. Sure, it was cheap for the first 3 days you have a wound,
Right.
but then when it becomes like green and pussy and whatever, then it's like, now we have an emergency surgery, and we're spending so much more money, and we're hurting ourselves. And so to me, I'm not against people who say put America first. I think we just see it totally differently. And then I also just think there's a wrong narrative that we're telling ourselves, that like putting America first means putting America only.
Right.
And
Yeah.
Right.
and we're going to lose, and it's really scary, because this is what my career is about. And so, people
It's
who are
hard
doing
'cause you're
really great
seeing
work.
You're seeing the train crash, but it's like happening in slow motion. You're like, guys, please stop. Like, this is not the
Well,
path to go, but
it's
you're
a
seeing the
slow
dead end.
burn. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
there's a visual that I really like, where like should have shared it with you, but essentially it's like a guy sitting in a chair facing outward, and he has these giant dominoes on his right and left, and you see he doesn't like a domino, so he pushes it here, right? And then it goes around, and what he can't see is that it's a big circle. And so at the very end, that last domino is going to smash him.
Yeah.
And it's a silly cartoon, but it's so effective, because it says like the consequences are it's time sensitive. Like, you don't see it right away.
Katie, we call
Yeah.
that fuck around and find out. That's what that is. That's exactly.
Yeah,
And
it's a lot of FAFO.
I don't know if that's resonating in DC. I don't know if you guys are in a bubble where you don't know, but the rest of America is talking about FAFO. So it is on full display right now, where we're people who, I mean, I'm wearing the wrong red hat, but people who are wearing the red hats, they're finding out that they are also on the chopping block for some of these things,
So, Katie, we're
Yeah.
going to wrap it up here in a second, but I want to ask
Yeah.
you, I want to make sure we touched on everything that you want to talk about. So is there anything that we
thanks.
haven't made it to that you want to make sure, people understand, whether it be about what you do or just what's happening, that we just, we failed to
Yeah.
touch on?
Well, first, thanks, Ryan and Ian, for even providing an opportunity. And I know this isn't like the sexiest subject, and it's also way more fun to get like volatile and feisty sometimes, or like to get kind of spicy. So I
You're
just really
welcome.
appreciate.
You're welcome. You're
Well,
welcome.
you both bring that,
All
like
that spice.
I'm bringing federal government perspective, which is definitely not the sexiest topic. And also March Madness would be way more fun to talk about.
Yeah.
We can do that. We could do that. Yeah.
I'm rooting for the Huskies for women, just to be clear.
Yes.
I think I just want people to think about like challenge the narratives that are being said, especially when it comes to people. Like these are real people, and people make these decisions. And I want to have the same respect for people in administration. Like I want to take them that some folks do think it's the best way forward. Where I think we should be challenging is watch not what they say, but how they do and what they do.
Yeah.
And so when you have people saying like we're putting America first, and I'm telling you I'm an American, and they're treating me like trash, and they're telling people like my colleagues, my other federal government workers, that they're clowns for caring. I just think like regardless of people's politics, I want them to question that and say like this we can do better. Like I'm putting my tax dollars and my vote to this jerk. Like there's literally no one else in my state that can have a respectful attitude and do a job. I just disagree. So, I just want people to know, like the people who are doing the jobs here who are getting fired, we pay taxes. We have our kids in the public school systems. We have our parents on Medicaid, Medicare. We have family members who or ourselves are disabled. Like it's not just these random evil people lurking around, which is what we're kind of being told. We're being lumped into this other category.
Yeah.
I'm from Michigan. I'm not from DC. I grew up in a suburb, in a middle-class area. Like everyone around me is similar. So just, I think asking folks to, regardless of their politics, like I just think it's easy, and we shouldn't be so divisive that we can't call out honestly bullshit when we see it.
Yeah.
And this is bullshit. So
100%.
That's where I hope people kind of fall. Like if you think a leader should never fall under criticism, or you can't say this is ridiculous, you guys are being total jerks, or truly like total assholes to people, and celebrating it. Like it's hurtful. I put up a career doing something I thought was making America better and great, and people can disagree, and that's totally okay. Or they can say my job isn't doing that, and then but to then treat me like that's not my intention, that's just false.
Yeah. Ryan, I do have to ask you a special request. Please open up the phone line. Someone I think is trying to call the show. Let me see.
It's probably Cory Booker.
Is it
just thanking you for your service?
For being the generic version lookalike? Yeah.
248 number?
So impressed by you.
Oh, because I had my
I know.
Do not disturb on.
That
would be why.
Let's see. Is it on now, or is it?
No, it should be on now.
Are they on?
No, they got a call. I figured out why it wasn't going through, because I turned my do not disturb on.
Got it.
Dude, if I didn't, my phone would be going off every 5 seconds.
That's fantastic.
You're that popular?
Or that hated. That hated might be a better.
A little bit of both. You should see the hate mail he gets, Caitie. I just want to tell you, he pissed off Picasso. It is a work of art. I bring this up a lot when he calls me. It's his caller ID. It's garbage, and they made it to look like his face. And I go, "You have the best haters.
It is
the best.
It's a MAGA Jackson Pollock." Yeah.
Well, you have had some pretty interesting guests, I'll say, and done some pretty cool shows. So I can see that people might have strong opinions, but kudos to you for bringing up conversations.
Yeah,
it is so interesting.
That's why I've got Ian. He keeps me in line.
Oh.
I did listen to one of your podcasts where Ian would jump in and out. Let's just say it was one of your more stronger feeling guests.
Yeah.
That.
Oh God, was it? Yeah. But just so you could
Caitie,
see.
Here you go.
You can see
how
that
you remember me, Caitie.
He hasn't changed at all.
Yeah. No.
Wow.
Shave the goatee off, and he'd look exactly the same.
You look pretty similar. That's an incredible picture.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's back in the day.
Where it all started.
That was science class, and we
Wow.
talked about it before. And my wife actually told me, she's like, "You're never allowed to shave." I go, "Why? Is it my Benjamin Button? Like, what's wrong?" And she's like, "I am not sitting here looking like I literally just like snatched you out of
Your
a crib."
baby,
I'm
she's
like,
I'm
babysitting.
telling you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
See, and the
I'm
funny
like,
thing
it's kind of
is,
cute. Let's do it. She's like, no.
so my
away from
wife is, what is it, 3 years? She's either 3 or 4 years older than me. And everybody thinks that I married somebody 10 years younger.
Oh, wow.
Like black women, black women just,
race.
yep,
It's like,
yeah, exactly. Guess that
That's
race.
fair.
But it's like, so they always, it's like I'm the old man that married somebody way younger. I'm like, she's older than me. Like, she's the
Yeah.
cradle robber here.
Oh, it's so good. It's so
I
good.
think we got somebody. Hold on a second here. You're on. Hold the mic.
Hello, how is everyone?
Uh-oh. Who is this?
Oh, wait. I think this is for
Ida
Caitie.
Sherman.
Oh, my God.
This is Ian's cool older sister.
Actually, Katie has been
Oh,
calling
Caitie
her my
Goddard.
cool older sister since forever. Like, I actually didn't have a name. She was like, "This is Ida's stupid little brother." That's the cool older sister. This is the
never said
reality.
that.
But no,
No,
Katie,
no.
Katie, how are you?
I wanted you guys to see, to reconnect
That's
live
really
here on the show.
sweet. Well, I just remember Ida being like the most
Oh, no, I'm
beautiful,
so happy.
cool, sporty girl in the school that everyone wanted to be like. And I felt so cool when she would, be my friend.
Hey, girl,
She
we're
was
still
so
friends.
cool. Oh, what a compliment.
Still friends. Still friends.
Are you still
Yeah,
supermodeling
I had to
it
call
and
as soon as
playing
I heard you were-
basketball?
Oh, Lord. I mean, in my free time, but no.
Which we don't get any
No,
of
just-
anymore.
Ida has a mini.
Yeah,
Let
right?
me tell you, it is this little girl. I can't even call her little anymore. She's taller than my wife and has Ida's attitude. And I already know it's game on with this one. And I go,
Oh.
this is like her spitting image. It's everything. And
Lucky girl.
it's amazing to see. It's amazing to be the uncle of, my little bugaboo, as I call her. I'm just not allowed to make her laugh. It's
Yeah,
the hardest
it's
game
fun.
to play with that little girl. Ugh, I fail every time. Yeah, but no, I
Oh,
really
yeah,
wanted
she's
you
great
guys
at
to.
basketball too. So we have
That's
fun.
really sweet.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's so
See,
nice
we need to
hear
just
from you.
all go home at the same time and just all hang out.
Yeah.
Get a snapshot.
We need to.
Well, if the Detroit Lions
would
would
love
finish the
that.
job, we would all be there. Okay, that's the
Bro,
That's
and some of
true.
these moves, man, I don't know. Like,
That's true.
they're
Yeah.
losing some people that I'm like, man.
It's all right. But the Pistons are doing
We'll
their
see.
thing right now.
Well-
We're seeing some things.
Hey, y'all need to learn to stop messing with the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
They will
They'll
give you a
fight.
3-piece without even thinking about it.
It would be like Katie and Ida on
Yeah,
13 Mile
yes.
Road. They will take you there to Pound Town, guys.
Don't make us have to come out of retirement, Pistons.
I know. I'll do it. I'm down.
They might need some here soon. They're all gonna get booted out.
It's
No,
so
for
good.
sure. They are
It is so
wild,
good.
but I like wild, so it's okay.
It was like the Malice in the Palace too, man. I was like, as soon as I saw
Yeah.
the highlight or the tagline come up on my phone, Detroit Pistons get in brawl. I was like, oh, so it's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
right?
It's back to the bad boys.
Bad boys.
All over
Yep.
again.
That was my
Oh,
happy
childhood.
place.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's so good. It's
Oh,
so
Well,
good.
See, you
if
guys
y'all
get
are
to-
ever back in Michigan, let me know because my parents still live there and I plan on being back this summer and would love to.
I think that's what we need to do, like plan the summer. Like
We're aiming for that. I try to
Yeah.
get back there in August to see
I'm
everybody.
here.
that would be cool.
I was like, I'm here.
Well,
Where are
hey,
you?
no, seriously
here,
though,
so-
because I actually just got an email from Robbie like 2 weeks ago. They're trying to do our high school reunion, our 25 year, because we didn't get to do
Oh,
2020
COVID.
because of
20.
COVID.
Right.
So
Right.
I think they were talking August anyway for us coming back. So I'll probably be there anyway for that.
Wild.
Let me
So,
know.
Katie,
I can
that's
stay a few
it.
extra
You heard
days.
it here first, right?
I'll be
no,
there.
seriously, I'll stay a few extra days and
And Ida, you're in Berkeley?
Yeah,
Or where
let's
are
all
you at?
get together.
Berkeley.
Berkeley. Yep.
Yeah,
Berkeley, nice.
Yes.
I
Good
used to
old
love
Berkeley,
going over to
Michigan.
Berkeley.
hold it down.
Top place.
Oh, man.
Eighth district.
There's like so many places I have to go when I come home and people I need to go see. So yeah, I think
That's why
I'll
you
need,
just
I think I'll need
throw
to
one
be there
big
like
party.
a week. Yeah.
I literally just tell
Yeah.
Ida to
Send
just
me the
invite
list, I'll throw a
whoever,
party.
and I just show up, and I'm like, hey, everybody, whoever I was supposed to see, you're either here at Ida's or you're not.
Is that when the
things to do.
hundreds come to
Right.
see the famous
Oh my
Ian
God.
Sherman?
Yep.
Not
Back
at
from
all.
Brooklyn?
We're gonna charge.
I sneak in and I sneak out of Detroit these days.
Yeah,
I have
we're
a
gonna
select few.
charge.
Actually,
people
Caitie,
to
I'm
see
sending
him.
this episode to a couple people. Be like, yeah, guess who I got on the mic? I got Caitie
I
Goddard
could say
on the
the
mic.
same.
y'all.
I know.
Ian
I was so
Sherman.
excited.
No, this has been great.
Yeah, this is everything.
Um,
This is home. This is homecoming here
Well,
on Hold the Mic. It's what
Thanks
it
for
is.
giving me a chance and talking about, like I said, the sexiest topic ever, which is federal government, everyone's favorite.
No,
You
you're
know-
doing, Caitie. I have to give you your flowers. You really are giving a face and a name to this situation because
Yeah.
we really do. Even
Yeah.
in that clip with Banks, we still couldn't see. We couldn't humanize it, right? We were only, being
Yeah.
degraded by just a voice. But you are actually giving voice to. You're here. You're
Thanks.
showing people what's going on, and and we really appreciate your knowledge on this. And we got you to curse. So this is a
You did.
I'm happy.
Not
She got
really
very
my
comfortable.
forte.
I think she
She
cursed
got-
more than I did.
She did curse more than
No.
you. Yeah. So Katie's on the
I'm
Hold the Mic.
embarrassed.
This is-
Wow.
I think that
It's
deserves.
a sign
I
of
think that deserves an
acknowledgement.
applause.
No,
Actually,
it doesn't.
Caitie-
No, it doesn't.
I have to ask you, are you going to tell Elon and Doge that this is one of the top 5 things that you did this week, or what? How does that work out?
You know, I
Please,
could.
please put it on your bullet points for the week.
I will hyperlink it, honestly. I could hyperlink it. I don't think anyone actually reads those, so I don't want to
Right.
disappoint you that you wouldn't get extra Doge listeners.
Oh my
But
gosh.
it would be one of my top 5 without question. Yeah,
That's so
definitely.
funny. God,
Oh,
that's
that's
so
funny.
wild to think about. It's just so wild. It's so wild.
Yeah,
Oh, man.
we didn't even
I
talk
really-
about that. We don't need to. That's just a whole nother thing of how to
It's a
degrade
trigger.
people by
You know what it is? All that
testing
means is
them.
we have to bring you back. That's all that
Yeah.
means.
I was
You have
just
to
about to
come
say
back.
that.
You got to come. You got to give us
I'll
updates.
just
Just
keep
know
learning
that.
and listening from your podcast and sharing it around, and hopefully you guys just keep doing what you're doing and getting a bigger and bigger audience, and then at some point when you really need like I said, a sexy topic back again, I'm here.
USDA, man.
Anytime you want to talk about the federal government.
Yeah, when you really want fireworks, let me know.
No, but all seriousness, I definitely have to echo what Ian said. Is as much as it may not be the sexy topic that people want to listen to, it's a necessity right now. People need to understand exactly what's going on. They need to understand how it's affecting
I hope
our
so.
everyday lives. And the one thing you kept saying that I really like is that, these people that you work with, they represent more than just the people that agree with their political ideologies or their
Totally.
religion or whatever. And that's
Yeah.
why I think I'm so
Mhm.
attracted to representatives like Jasmine Crockett, and AOC and even Cory Booker, because they don't just represent their districts. I don't just hear them talking to their constituents when I hear them talk and
Yes,
address
I
us.
agree with
I
that.
hear them.
They care.
They care about everybody. And when I hear Jasmine Crockett and her talking points and her speeches, she's not just talking for Texas. She's talking for me. She's speaking for me, and I feel like she's fighting for me, even though she's not my representative. And I wish the president and everybody down would remember, Republican, Democrat, whatever, your job is to represent the American people,
Yes.
not the Republican people,
Yes.
not the Democrat people,
Yep.
the American people. And I think if we had representatives and presidents remembering that we'd be in a hell of a lot better place.
Here,
So,
here.
Drop the
with,
mic.
Yeah.
with that said, I'm forgetting we've got Ida on the line. Like, we're about to sign off. I guess you know what? Just stay there. We'll talk to you in the green room. Stay there, Ida.
So real quick, positives. Caitie, you
All
got
right.
a positive?
Okay.
Or do you want me to go first?
Positives. You go first. You go first. Yeah.
So with the positive aspect, we like to talk about stuff that is going on, whatever, just to light up the show. This whole moment though is a positive in general. Mine is today I got to turn lemons into lemonade. My son is feeling big feelings. I have a 3-year-old, and so he's feeling his big feelings. We have a newborn, so therefore we're seeing a lot of changes in our household, and so he's really learning how to maneuver through life. And I'm trying to be a better man. I'm trying to raise a better man, and I'm trying to figure out how to go about these steps, working really closely with my wife and with the daycare. I say all that to say to you, there's moments like this where he gets in trouble. Children get in trouble. And so the daycare asked him to stay home for a day, maybe be home, be present with us. And all I can say to you guys is that I got to spend the best day this Wednesday today
No, that's really
with
sweet.
my son playing basketball, soccer, playing on a playground right here in Brooklyn, and then take him to a soccer field and literally just run laps with him, and then introduce him to baseball. He's only 3. Since he was 2, he's been rock climbing, and he's more of an athlete than I am. So I'll just say that. He puts me to shame. Ida and our father would be so proud. Because he'd be like, okay, you run that little brother. You run that brother. I didn't know how he would sound on the field. It wouldn't be brother, probably be more like mother. But I'm going to go ahead and mute that.
For 3,
Our father was very, very, he was linguistic. Let's just say that. So it was funny because I called Ida and I go, I have never felt more like our father than I do today. I was like, I am the stay-at-home dad making this man run drills right now. So I had my positive, which was complete one-on-one with my son and doing every sport under the sun to really just have a good time. So that was my day. And then Caitie, you being here really is a cherry on top. So this is
thanks.
Everything.
Oh, I definitely don't beat the wind sprints you made your son do, but I love I love that
he was doing suicide for sure.
I just hope you can get him to go back to daycare, because this feels like the opposite of punishment, or like think about it. He's like, oh, I'm in. I'm me and Dad every day.
It's it was an interesting day.
Oh, he definitely had a way better day.
Oh yeah, I expect him to get kicked out by next week. That's all I got to say. So yeah.
For sure.
Funny.
Well, okay, I'll say my positive is more of like a reflection on the last. So I really don't like sitting in negative. And I think I said at the beginning, like one of the reasons I joined the federal government is because I don't want to complain. I want to do something. I really don't like sitting and saying, I don't like this, and then being a whiner. That doesn't do anything. So one of the great things about, being put on administrative leave and watching people around me who I know really, really care is it angered me at first, and it got me really fired up. But being a former athlete and someone who has a competitive streak, like then it's like, oh, I'm not, this isn't right. And I have a big social justice and a sense of like injustice is not, I don't want to tolerate it. So I'm fired up to do more. Right. And one of those things is get more active in politics. And
you've been activated. You've been activated.
Yeah, I'm activated. Yeah. I'm activated. So my next step is figuring out what that looks like. And I don't want to, look back and go, what if I had done something? So getting motivated by people like Ryan and Ian and Ian's cool older sister, Ida, and others, to just say like people, it's not just me who's impacted. In fact, there's people who have been hit far harder than I have. And I want to do right by people, and we deserve better. And I want to be part of that. So I'm super jazzed in some ways. And like, I'm trying to make my own lemonade out of lemons that have been handed to me.
Absolutely.
Well, hearing that, I hope your next step is to run for office.
Well, I was going to say to you, when you want to drop that, you come back to the show, girl. You come back to the show and you drop that news.
I'll hit you up this summer to see if there's anything to talk about.
We will campaign with you all day.
Because that's what we need in government. We need more empathy. We need more people that look past their own noses.
100%.
And I personally think that's a big part of the problem we're having right now is that, people that I speak with that are more like-minded like us, they're thinking about others. When you speak to people that are more on the other side, they're thinking about themselves, their money, their everything, and they don't really care about any other
or others
outside of that.
Like them. And if you run and you're serving in office, not everyone is like you. And I think it's really important to appreciate that. And that doesn't mean agreeing necessarily, but that means taking the time and not shutting an elevator door on your constituents, right? Yeah. And saying like, hey, I can listen. I don't have to agree, but we can do far better.
And just, for measuring stick, the guy pissing in a gold toilet probably isn't going to best represent you. And know your struggles as a working class American.
Gold lace depends. Stop lying, okay? This is just
now you probably don't make it to the bathroom anymore.
Wait, Ida, you got any positive news you want to share with the world?
Yeah.
Oh.
I got married last night.
What?
Oh, congratulations.
I'm sorry.
What's her name?
Why are we talking about our good news? What?
Right?
I knew. Ida, it is so Ida to get married on April Fools. I was like, girl, this is you.
That's funny. No,
all
you didn't.
day.
It's April Fool's. No, seriously,
yeah.
I did.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Ida.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It was a good
I
time.
think-
We had fun.
God.
I think this is how the
It's a
rest
good
of the
time.
family's going to find out.
Why weren't you there?
Because I have a bad
He's
kid. I
busy.
need to-
He's busy with his kids.
Yeah. Excuses.
He was
excuses.
holding
Actually,
time
I-
sprints.
I
with
should
his
have, yeah.
three-year-old.
Our little man in Detroit.
Too busy
He
with the
loves-
stopwatch.
Mind you, I'm raising a little Detroiter. He loves Detroit. He loves Detroit. So he's
Yeah.
going in the right direction.
Oh my
And he
gosh.
loves Uncle Aya. So he's doing it. Ida, I am
Obviously.
so proud of you and Jimmy, and I just want to say congratulations to you both. Really,
That's
it's
awesome.
really, and you make a
This is
beautiful
the
bride. It was
best.
really, the photos look great.
Oh, obviously.
How did
Yeah,
I
we
not
had fun.
see? How did I not see the photos?
Oh no, this is Ida. It's very private. It's
Well,
Oh,
very,
wait.
gotcha.
Now, how are we going to follow that up with Ryan's positive?
I know mine. Mine sucks
Sorry,
now.
Ryan. I don't know if you're going to win.
so my positive is probably my positives sometimes take a weird turn. So I got tagged for jury duty for the next year.
Oh.
That was a surprise. Like I thought I was going in for like a day, a week.
Year.
We get in there and they're like, yeah, so this is going to be for the next year. And I just like me and the dude sitting next to each other. We look and go, did he just say a year? And I look over and go, I sure as hell hope not. And then
Was
right
it
after I
April
said that,
Fool's?
no, it's a federal jury. And so it's a grand jury. So, and the kicker is
Ooh.
that they can review up to like 40, 50 cases a day.
Mm.
So I'm like, this is like the worst timing possible for me because like Ian and I are in the middle of all this, my kids, my wife's in college, like, whatever. But
Right.
so I say all of that because my
Crikey.
kids started making these little bracelets. And so they made me bracelets to take with me and to the jury duties. So that was my little positive. And then also I came home, it was like yesterday, the day before, and they went to base to get shoes for the kids because their feet won't stop growing.
Mm.
The nerve.
Yep.
The nerve.
Another tall. Those tall.
My
you got
daughter's
tall kids.
feet. Oh
Yeah.
my God. So so I come back and so my son comes out and he's like, Dad, we got you something. It's a shoebox. And I was like, okay. So they got me a new pair of shoes and I open it up and it's Lion's blue. Like the perfect color.
Oh, that's so nice.
And Jen, my wife, she's like, yeah, as soon as Dominic saw them, they were, and Liv too, they were like, oh, we got to get those for Dad. It's Lion's blue.
I love
Oh.
that.
So they got me new
That's
shoes while
really
they were out.
sweet.
Yeah.
That's
So
heartfelt.
Well,
I love
Ryan,
my
the only
family.
thing I can say is you could be part of the next show. Was it the jury duty show? Where like you don't know you're actually on TV, but you are.
wouldn't that be
Just
cool?
kidding.
So
That would be kind
yeah,
of cool.
that sounds like a year-long filming thing.
It could be.
Be careful.
I actually am going to ask them the next time we go in and be like, can I document this at all? Like, of course I can't talk about,
No.
I can't talk about the cases and
I know.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah, she's like, no. But I mean, of course you can't talk
I'm like,
about
absolutely not, sir.
but the cases, but just like something
Ryan,
like,
welcome
of
to my
me
life of dealing
going-
with Ida. I
hey,
got shot down with all my ideas. all my ideas.
That's why
Girl, I'm
she's
thinking
going
about
to
eating
run
this
my,
cereal. No.
Ida's going to run my political campaign. She'll be like, no.
Ida would have you president if she ran your campaign. I'll tell you right now.
But
You
I
won't like her.
no.
But she's gonna get you there. She's gonna get you there.
That is a horrible idea.
Horrible idea. But no, so I love my family and my coaching, the soccer coaching is
so
going
nice.
good. So I'm having a blast with that and very thankful for my wife for agreeing to coach with me. She takes a lot of stress off my plate. So very thankful.
That's so cute.
Yep.
We've all built some beautiful tribes. That's number one thing.
We have, man. Isn't it amazing?
pretty cool.
This is
And,
really
and to
everything.
know that it all started here.
Yeah.
That is a picture
Yeah.
that you have.
Absolutely.
Wow. Shout out to Jason Davies also in the
I
back.
know, yeah, man. Shout out to him, man. But yeah, Ian, you got anything else, brother?
No, man, this has been a real gift. Katie, you have to come back, tell us more.
Yes, for
and
sure.
If you're breaking news, you know where to find us.
Yes.
Cheers, thank
Both,
you.
both.
Yeah.
Sounds like I have to hire Ida first to make sure I'm doing it right.
Yeah, we're both gonna have to.
Absolutely.
Um,
Like, just give me a phone call. You don't have to hire me.
and you got to call in again, Ida.
Oh, you do.
So,
Now that I have the number, don't
right?
even play.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get midnight. I'm gonna
You can
start
prank
getting
call
phone
us, don't
calls.
worry. You can prank
Exactly.
call us. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen.
I literally was about to say I'm gonna have my son call me all the
Oh
time.
yeah, and his son will do it. He'll do
know,
it. He's
too.
a little mini me. So good luck. Good
Oh
luck.
my God. All right.
Oh,
Well,
he's so fun. Yeah, they're all fun.
so
Outros.
with that, thank you. This has been Caitie Goddard. For those who maybe joined us later in the show, she is amazing. As you can see, if you didn't get to catch us from the beginning, you can go back on our YouTube and catch it from the beginning. It'll be available for download on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and all those wonderful apps sometime tomorrow. And big announcement, actually. So because of my jury duty, we actually have to move some shows around. So we moved. I just want to explain to y'all what happened. So we moved to Wednesdays, as a lot of you know, because we wanted to give. We both wanted to not get divorced from our wives and be able to go out on Friday nights.
Yep.
So that was why we originally moved it when we came back from the break after the election. Unfortunately, the jury duty is every other week. And because of that, we are going to have to switch the shows. So what we've decided is we're going to continue to do Wednesdays every other Wednesday, and then we're going to do every other Friday. So we'll be
hybrid
live.
system.
Yep,
Little
we're going to be
hybrid.
live on Wednesday, and then the next week we're going to be live on Friday. And then to make sure that you still have something to see from us every Wednesday or Friday, we're going to drop smaller 20, 30-minute episodes on other topics that we want to do shows on. We actually like a lot of other things like, music and things that we want to do shows on. So
Basketball.
again, we're kind of restructuring because, life is just lifing. But we do what we got to do to keep the show going. And as always, we appreciate you. We don't have a show or a platform without all of you who listen. Shout out to all of our international fans. I see you guys downloading. I see why you pay attention and why you're so invested, especially with these ridiculous tariffs going on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man, make sure you guys tune in because this is going to be a fun year for sure. But with that said, I'm going to leave you as I always do with much love, keep fighting, and whatever you do, make sure you stay safe out there.